America, we gotta get back to doing what's expected of us as free citizens in this democracy. That means being tolerant, being respectful, staying informed, and being engaged. I'm former Congressman Joe Walsh. Follow me here and join the millions of Americans who are renewing their social contract with each other. The social contract, it's on us. Welcome, everybody. Give me a heart. There are the hearts. Nancy, Val, Merritt, Ferris, Moonpuck, Kathy, everybody, welcome. Come on in. It's a Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. Today's Wednesday. It's Wednesday night. Welcome. Come on in, everybody. Get yourself comfortable. I've got a really cool, interesting guest tonight that I am going to pull in here in a minute. His name is Corey Nathan, a good friend of mine who's doing great work out there. I can't wait to call Corey in. Come on in, everybody. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Lena. Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Bobby. Welcome this Wednesday before Christmas week. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays, everyone. Happy Hanukkah, everyone. Whatever you celebrate. I generally say Merry Christmas to everybody because I don't think anybody's offended by that, but I hope you're doing well. Robin JP, thank you. Two quick things before I bring my guest in. Two quick things. I am feeling better. I know I've been pretty vague about what I've been going through health-wise. Hi, everybody. Hi, Kat. Hi, Mary Jo. I'm back. Show me love. Show me some hearts. Punch those hearts. I am feeling better. I had almost exactly a week ago, I had major surgery. Major surgery. And the procedure was tough. The recovery was even worse. And I stayed in the hospital one night. And then when I came home, I'll tell you, for 2 or 3 days, I've not experienced pain that great. So I was on my back and I wasn't doing well all of this past week. I'm finally beginning to feel like some real progress now, day by day. So I'll tell you more. I'll tell you all more later at another time. But thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for staying in the community and thinking of me. It was a tough week. It was a tough week. No, Mary Jo, I wasn't sick. I had an operation that I had to go under the knife. Let me tell you something. At my young age, what am I? How old am I? I'm 32 years old, maybe 33. I've never been under general anesthesia before. Oh my God. So this was the first time I was knocked out and I was under the knife for about 5 hours. So it's taken me some time, but I am feeling better. I'm on now a road, I think, to feel really better. I still got to take it easy through this Christmas, New Year's season, and I intend to do that. Thank you all for your thoughts and your wishes. Second thing I want to say before I bring my guest in, Corey Nathan. Can't wait to chat with Corey Nathan here a little bit. I know you're like me every day, right? If you care about the country, if you care about what that fucking dangerous madman in the White House and my former party are doing to this country, every day, man, can be overwhelming, right? Overwhelming. And this past week has been overwhelming. Our Jewish brothers and sisters in Australia still have no clue who did what at Brown University. Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. And then everything Trump says and does. It can feel overwhelming every day. I was especially sad today. You can pick any news story going on today. A bunch happened today. Dan Bongino's leaving. Uh, what made me so sad today was this: Jack Smith's testimony, the special prosecutor who looked into January 6th and the classified documents case. Jack Smith's testimony today made me so sad. And it wasn't in public because my former buddy Jim Jordan and the Republicans didn't want it public. But Jack Smith's testimony today made me really sad because today in his testimony, Jack Smith reminded us of one of our country's darkest, most disgraceful moments. Smith today in his testimony reminded us that for the only time in American history, the only time, back in 2020, an American president lost an election, refused to accept the result, refused to concede. And then, as Jack Smith reminded us today, that former American president committed crimes trying to overthrow an American election and stop the peaceful transfer of power. It was a reminder today, listening to, reading Jack Smith's testimony. It was a reminder today as to what Trump did. The only president in American history who lost an election and refused to accept the will of the people and then committed crimes trying to overthrow the election. But what makes me sad is this. What made me so sad today was this. Trump's a criminal. Trump's a traitor. He should be in prison. He should be a pariah. And yet, the American people put him back in power. That's what makes me so sad today. I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to bring in my guests. Nobody move. Everybody keep looking at the screen. I'm going to see if I can do this right. I'm going to bring in my guest, Corey Nathan. There he is. I'm going to invite him. And let's see if this works. There he is. I did it.
I did it. How about that?
Corey, welcome. Everybody say hi to Corey Nathan. Corey Nathan's a good friend of mine. Corey, how long you been on Substack?
Oh, man. I've been on Substack for a while, but I've just been getting active over the last couple months.
He's just been getting active the last couple months. I want everybody to follow and subscribe to him. Go check out Corey Nathan's Substack page. Corey Nathan, guys, is one of the people in this country that I so look up to and respect. You know my story. You know my journey. You know how I'm trying to help heal the divide in this country. Corey Nathan's doing that and then some. He's got a really cool, awesome podcast called Talkin Politics and Religion Without Killing Each Other. Corey Nathan trying to find that magic, that secret sauce that can help lower the temp in this country and help bring this broken, divided country back together. Everybody give Corey a big red heart and welcome him. And by the way, I'll say this a couple times. You got to check out his podcast. Corey and I recorded a conversation today, and I'm going to be on a podcast of his that comes out in January. But it's a great podcast, again, called Talkin Politics and Religion Without Killing Each Other. Check out his podcast and also go to his Substack, Corey Nathan, and subscribe. He writes some. Corey, I'm going to say it like this. I'm going to tee you up. In a day where these times where it seems like on every platform, including Substack, it's just trench warfare, baby. We're just going at each other with every fucking thing that happened that day. And we're all bitching and moaning and blah, 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 blah. The stuff you write, correct me if I'm wrong, my friend, and your podcast, you seem to try to get us to get above the day-to-day fray and think about bigger, longer term, more serious issues. Does that make sense?
Oh man, that's I'm honored that you would put it that way. Honestly, first of all, Joe, I got to give you major props right out of the gate. I love that you say talking without the G and killing without the G. So
Fuck yeah, killing without the G, without killing each other.
yeah, that's right. That's right. You had me at hello, man. Honestly, what I've been trying to do since I started writing more actively and regularly is I'm just trying to make sense of it, man. I'm trying to look through a more transcendent prism because I struggle, man. I struggle on a day-to-day basis.
Make sense of what? Make sense of what?
Make sense of just the day-to-day craziness. The day-to-day, we're under a barrage of. We were talking about this morning. One of those conversations I saw you just manage to keep your cool. I don't know how you did it, but we're surrounded by these business plans and networks and all kinds of things that are driven by hate, by fear, by anger. And I don't want to succumb to that. So when I write, I'm trying to slow down my thoughts enough to be able to look at the better compass, the true north of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. It takes work, man. It takes work.
Of course, it takes you and I in many ways are in the same vineyard, and it takes a lot of work. From your perspective, would you agree with me that this country is divided right now?
Yeah, I would say it's divided for sure.
Would you go as far as I would go, which is we are dangerously divided?
Yes, there's a lot of danger. Yeah, absolutely.
So then, when you look at that, Corey, do you think, okay, social media pulls us apart, our politicians pull us apart, cable news pulls us apart, all of these institutions and platforms are kind of incentivized to increase the hate? Is it more that they've done that to us as a people, or as a people, we've divided each other, or we've allowed ourselves to be divided?
If I had to choose one or the other, I would choose the former.
Really?
And here's why. Because when you actually sit down with somebody and you do the work of seeing each other as human beings, then you realize that it's not to say that we don't have differences. Of course we have differences. You and I probably disagree on guns.
Not a lot.
We probably disagree on any number of things. We disagree on Prop 50. I think you were on one side, I was on, right? So there's all kinds of things we disagree on. But when I'm sitting down with you, whether it's like this or when hopefully when you're in SoCal, we'll get together, and share a drink or two, then I see your humanity. I see, and I've done this maybe not as often as you, but I've done this hundreds of times where I'll get offline with somebody. I'll go to a local pub with somebody. I'll meet them at a Bible. I'll meet them wherever they want.
Stop there, Corey. I want to hear this. I love this shit. How will that start? Like somebody might take out after you on social media or on your show or whatever, and then you'll respond, hey, meet me let's sit, have a drink. How does that start? And then once you're offline and you're meeting with them, tell me how that goes.
So more often than it doesn't work every time, because sometimes somebody just doesn't want to get together with me. But I will, when it starts getting really heated, especially when there are certain elements that are in place, like when I start to see that people are in performative mode, where it becomes more of a contest than a conversation, then I'll hit them up offline so that we're one-on-one. There's no performance anymore. It's just me and him or me and her. And I'll say, hey, if you're in town, let's go grab a beer. Let's go grab a coffee. Let's do something. Let's get together. Let's sit down. Let's have this conversation. Because when I'm sitting in front of you face to face, number one, it's not a performance. Number two, and this might sound ironic, number two, if you're going to be as much of an asshole as you were when you're performing for everybody else on Facebook or Substack, it doesn't happen as much, but on the Twitter, what have you, then you're risking the possibility of me punching you in the throat. You know? Now, I
Yeah.
haven't done that. I haven't done that, but that implicit possibility means that we have to be more humane to each other. And
It-
because yeah,
and you find in general, when you take it offline,
yeah.
in general, it is more humane, you find overall.
It is, it is. It's not every time, and I'm
No.
telling you, it's not even their fault when it either 1 out of 100 times that it goes off the rails, or even 1 out of 10 times it's not always their fault. Sometimes it's my fault because I have certain triggers. I believe in Jesus, but I'm not Jesus. I'm a human
Yeah.
being, and I have flaws. So, but being aware of that, I try to be it makes me more humble, and it also because of that humility, it makes me more curious. And if I'm curious and I ask a question, not a question of interrogation of like, yeah, so how'd you come up with that bullshit? No, a question of like, oh, that's really interesting. I don't think that way, but I'm really curious how you arrived at that kind of position. Like, did you have
So
a yeah,
is that Cora and you and I, the folks listening to us right now, and punch those hearts. Thanks everybody for listening. Maybe one of them's thinking, "Oh my God, I mean, Corey, Joe, I love what you do, but I'm a genuine, sincere progressive. My uncle is a hardcore MAGA. I ain't never gonna find any semblance of getting along sitting down with him offline."
yeah, yeah. No, I have those family members too, and different generations. And I can't control how they're going to react. I can't control how their positions. But I can control a few things. I can control my preparation.
Yeah,
So the preparation, I made a little subtle shift in my preparation for these things. I found that the first 50 years of my life, I would drive to these things and I'd be practicing like perfect comeback. I'd be
yeah.
practicing these little one-liners where, I would score the point in this imaginary contest, right? What I'm practicing now when I'm driving is the to have that spirit of curiosity, to have that disposition that Monica Guzman talks about in her book. I never thought of it that way. That's my goal. I want to arrive at a point where I'm sitting down with anybody, no matter how crazy I think their positions are, but I can arrive at the point where I say, huh, I never thought of it that way.
And Corey, you and I've talked about this before. What's your goal when you go into these things? Are you going into these things like, okay, I want to fucking find common ground with him, or I just want to what? What's your goal? What's your end game?
I
What's
want to
success?
Success is if I have a goal, one of my goals, it's to see their humanity. But
Uh,
if I have a wish for what they are feeling, I want them to feel heard. I want them to feel seen. I want them to feel understood. And if because what I found is a lot of this irritation, a lot of this anger rises from the notion that if I am not in their club, if I don't watch Bongino, if I don't watch Louder with Crowder, if they're not my cup of tea, then in their eyes, I'm one of them. And in
yeah.
their eyes, every one of them is wagging their finger in his face. And all I want is for him to be seen as a human being and to feel that sense of respect that I'm giving him just to listen to him. So that's my goal.
Do you have a line as to who you sit down with? Would you sit down with a neighbor who knows in his head and his heart that Trump really did win the 2020 election? And he fucking loves what ICE is doing on our streets right now. Get every one of them out of this country. Could you sit down with a guy like that? A neighbor like that?
I'm gonna I'm gonna err on the side of giving everybody the benefit of the doubt in advance. But I will own up to the fact that there are things that can happen along the way where I do have to draw the line. Because I've learned that as much as I'd like to be able to have a conversation with everybody on the face of the earth, I'm not able to do it. I have to know what my lines are. Now, my lines might be different than a lot of other people. A lot of other people might say, if you can't come and say that Biden won fair and square 2020, I'm not going to, that's fine. That's for somebody else. I'll sit down with you. I'll sit down with somebody who is cheering on the ICE thing. I don't like it. I disagree with it, passionately disagree with it. but I'll sit down with them because in truth, like what I said before about my goal, I still also have a hope that even if I can't in one conversation convince them of anything, I do believe that I can have 1 degree of influence, one conversation at a time. Maybe not 180 degrees, but 1 degree of influence, one conversation at a time. So knowing my boundaries, and sometimes I got to separate, and I'll still love them, but I'll just love them from a safe distance. But then also having realistic expectations of that 1 degree as opposed to 180 degrees.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and everybody listening to us, what Corey just mentioned there is it's a common question I get. But Joe, do you have a line as to who you're going to sit down with? I think we all kind of have a line. I don't know that I do. Though, if you are, my line is this: if you're an honest broker, like if I don't think you are an outright liar and a dishonest person, even if you genuinely believed we should bring slavery back to America, if I think you're an honest broker and you really believe that, I'd sit down with that person because again, my goal is I want to gain understanding. But if I just know you're a bullshitter and a dishonest person, I don't know that there's any point in sitting down with someone like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now that I think about it, there are certain people I know enough about their body of work and what their MO is. A guy like
Yeah.
Louder with Crowder, he's not. If somebody told me that he wants to come on my show, I'd have to really think about that.
Mhm.
I mean, listen, he'd probably get a lot of clicks on the episode or something like that. I don't know if I want those clicks because his MO is something different than what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm talking about honest broker having, sincere intent. I don't think that's sincere intent. I don't. He's selling a line of bullshit that I don't buy. Not only do I not buy it, I think it's bad. I think it's bad for humanity. I think it's bad for our country. I think it's bad all around.
I think it's bad, and I think you and I've spoken before. I do a lot of TV, all formats. I do the Pierce Morgan show. I'm not a fan of that format because it's just yelling at each other, creating the viral moment. That's a lot of what cable news can be like. We talked about Charlie Kirk. I thought the speaking that he was doing was detrimental to our body politic because he wasn't really looking to have conversations with people. I think there's too much debate and trying to score points and gotchas and not enough conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I tend to agree because I said it. I said it then. I mean, first and foremost, it's an absolute tragedy, not just for his family, not just for the people that agreed with him, not just for a side. It's a tragedy for all of us when he was assassinated because he was engaging in speech. Now, I do. I'm with you. I think his style of debate, especially the clips that he typically showed or his company typically showed. I don't agree. It's what I call a stacked deck argument. He
Yeah.
was stacking the deck so that he could knock down an 18-year-old that had no chance against him. So I didn't. That's not my style. I'm a much more conversational, overly
Yeah.
contentious type of a style. But he was
Yeah.
engaging in speech. And
Yeah.
to your point, Joe, the best way to actually contest bad speech is with better speech.
Yeah.
So that's the part that I think is tragic. He was
It's
engaging in speech.
yeah, completely. And look, I'm older than you, and I feel like I've been on a political battlefield for 15 years. I'm tired. I have no interest in debating. As a rule, I don't debate anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done debating. I'll have conversations with people. I ain't debating. Um, but then it's this notion that I worry that America is ready for real, hard, difficult conversations. Do you think we are?
I think we are, but I think that maybe we've lost that sense of civics. We've lost a sense of real philosophical engagement. I mean, if you look at William F. Buckley, one of my
Oh, yeah,
political and relatively contemporary philosophical heroes. He was a hero not because I agreed with everything that he wrote coming out of Yale onto his dying day, there's a lot of things I disagreed with, but I loved not only would he get into a really deep, nuanced conversation with people that were so far afield from his points of view. If you followed him and you followed his life story, not only did he get into these conversations, he developed deep and meaningful relationships
Yeah,
with
yeah,
some of the
yeah,
people that were far afield from his views.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think we need more of that. And to be able to still hold on to really strongly held views like you and Fred Guttenberg. I
yeah,
love that, the fact that
yeah.
you have a relationship with him.
I'm asked a lot, Corey, if I would ever sit down and have a conversation with Donald Trump.
Phew.
I've been asked that a lot over the years. Um, and I believe Donald Trump is evil. I believe he's one of the worst human beings who's ever lived. But I would sit down with him, and I think you might too. But I would think, I know I'd have ground rules in that kind of a conversation because Trump lies as he breathes, and I would have to hold him accountable for that stuff. So it would be a really difficult conversation to have.
So this is maybe where I'm a little bit more extreme than you, Joe, is I have a hard time seeing him as a human being. I honestly do. No, well,
Yeah.
so
No, I
I kind of
no,
joke.
I hear
I hinted at it before, but like, first of all, one of the requirements of being a human being is having a soul. Even for folks that
none.
maybe there's folks who are atheists here. That's cool. Like, I'm talking maybe philosophically, something, I don't know, just transcendent, right? And there's a couple of hints that I had that he has no soul. One is, if you've ever noticed, motherfucker does not laugh
Never
except
laughs.
out of
Yeah.
cruelty.
Yes.
It's that's not laughing at like humor and joy. That you don't see that kind of a laughter. And two is, I know these last couple of years he's been dancing. That's not dancing. This this creature does not experience music the way human beings experience music.
Yeah.
So these are just a couple of the hints that I believe that this is not a human being that we're talking about.
He's and again, I often confuse my definitions of sociopath, psychopath. I call him a psychopath. He's just humanly incapable of empathy.
Yeah.
You think about that. Humanly incapable of empathy, which is what he does every day, which is why he sent out that post
Yeah.
after Rob Reiner and his wife were brutally stabbed to death. He's just incapable of caring about anyone or anything but himself. I get to a point, Corey, where I almost defend him in my mind because he's just not capable of empathy.
So it has me contextualizing, digging into literature, and thinking about some of the worst characters that have been
Yes.
written, right?
Yes.
And I don't think Shakespeare would draw this character for any of his plays. Even if you think about Iago, if you
Yeah.
think about, any of his worst characters, they were three-dimensional characters. Shakespeare would not put a Trump character in his plays. He's not dimensional enough. He's too purely evil, right? So
Yeah. And that's Corey, that's such a great point. He's not even, he's all surface.
yeah,
There's no core. There's no dimension to him. He's He's actually not an interesting person. He's not well read. He's ignorant. He doesn't care about ideas. So put aside how bad and evil he is, he's just, there's no dimension to him. He's just flat. Um, but I agree with you in that I think he is evil. And I did a bunch of TV this week after he did what he did to Rob Reiner and his wife. And I would say that word, and some of the hosts would grimace. Joe, he's just an unpleasant, not a very nice man. And I said, no, wrap your arms around this. He's completely immoral. What
yeah,
is that?
yeah. It's kind of like saying Charles Manson was a little naughty. Like, come on. No, I
Yeah.
mean, I was thinking of Rob Reiner's films and a film like Princess Bride.
Oh,
Again, talk about characters. Rob Reiner wouldn't allow a character like Trump to be even in a farce, a fun, romping farce like Princess Bride, because like the audience just wouldn't buy it. But what concerns me more than Donald Trump, thinking about Donald Trump, is the fact that he's a reflection of us.
yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
He's a reflection of enough people voted for him 2016, 2020, 2024 in order for him to still be a prominent figure in our day-to-day lives for hundreds of millions of us. That's what disturbs me even
That
more.
that's what disturbs you, and that's what you spend a lot of your time trying to understand, as do I, that this great, good, decent country put an evil person in the White House twice, that the world's oldest, greatest democracy put him in the White House. He's a product of a broken politic. He's the consequence of a divided country. We could go on and on. It again, he's not interesting. We know what he is. How'd we get here? And then just to back up to ask you one more question on this topic, though, from where I began, and it's interesting. You do agree we're very, very divided. We're at each other's throats as a country. You seem to think that social media and a lot of the other platforms and media things, they're responsible for dividing us and having us at each other's throats. So then I go back to my original question, Core. Like I've said publicly now for years, I think we're like a married couple on the verge of a divorce, and we're going to give therapy one more try. Do you maybe if it's just social media and politics and everything driving us apart, maybe we're not at that desperate point in your mind?
Well, maybe we are, but I think you're grasping for the right prescriptions. Uh, Whether it's the right analogy or not, I think I get what you're saying. And where it encourages me is that if we're going to therapy, it means that we're working on the relational
Yes.
over and above the transactional, right? So a lot of our encounters are transactional. These contests that I was referring to, whether you think of it a debate contest or some other sort of contest, and you're scoring some imaginary point for your imaginary team, this is all transactional. But if the thing that I try to do is to sit down with somebody at a pub, a local pub or wherever, the thing that you're doing all the time offline when you're hitting up hundreds of people every week, if not thousands, right? Is you're planting the seeds for a relationship, relational over transactional. That's what I think can save us.
Yeah, no, I agree with Corey. I think we're at a point where we as a country have to decide, are we going to get a divorce or not? When I say we're going to give therapy one more shot, what therapy in my mind is, what you are doing, what I'm doing, and what a bunch of people are doing is just trying to engender these conversations. It's conversations, face to face conversations to gain understanding will either save us or we won't do it.
Yeah. Now, here's where I'm going to sound like a hypocrite. And this is more
Huh.
coming from a civics perspective, is I would embrace secretaries of state and attorneys general getting a lot more aggressive about pushing back against, I don't know if this is the right way to think of it, but the vertical balance of power. So we've heard about lawsuits here in California, Illinois. We've heard about lawsuits, but I'm wondering if there's even more that can be done. If there's more for Gavin Newsom or J.B. Pritzker to push back against the Fed when, for example, ICE officers are doing something illegal.
Yeah.
They do have I forget what it's called. Some sort of protection when it comes to civil, but they don't have protections when they're doing something that is criminally illegal. Yeah. So that's just one example. There's all kinds of other examples where we could really push back and maybe take back a little bit of control at the state by state levels. So maybe I sound a little bit like a hypocrite because I'm hinting at not what David French would refer to as soft secession. But yeah, I don't know.
No, Corey, you just described where I'm at every day. Every day I do two things. I try to defeat fascism, which I think is here, and I try to get people who don't think the same way to have conversations. And in many ways, those are two utterly different things. But it goes to my philosophy that I'm not interested in all of it. I don't think well, let me put it like this, Cor. Lincoln had to defeat the South before he brought the Union back together. We have to defeat what this un-American thing is that's in our presence. MAGA has to be defeated. Not MAGA people, the MAGA philosophy. Fascism has to be defeated. The Constitution, the rule of law, democracy, the results of elections, all of these things need to be reinstated. We need to re-embrace. We need to defeat what's being done right now and then focus on, okay, let's sit down and have coffee and see if we can stay together.
So do you think, speaking of David French, his theory is that there are two main things that are holding the MAGA movement together. One is a general affinity for Donald Trump, and two is a general hatred for anything that's seen that's not MAGA or generally the left or the left of MAGA or just outside of MAGA, right? So once Donald Trump is gone, and that's, we can set our clocks to it. It's already happening. I believe. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but in one way or the other, it's already happening. But at some point, he's going to be gone. Is hatred of this general mischaracterized, vilified version of the left enough to hold all of the coalition of MAGA together?
I go much further than David French. I think there's much more at play here than David French, and I respect the hell out of David French, but I say this as the only public
things that are holding the
Sorry.
together.
Oh, you're good, Cor.
For Donald Trump into
Oh my word! I don't know what just happened there. I think my phone is talking to my computer.
You're okay. All good. While Corey's fixing his stuff there, you can hear me, right, Cor?
Yeah.
So I'll keep talking. I think
There we go.
I think there's general cultish adoration for Trump. But I think that there is a MAGA authoritarian philosophy now that's been unleashed. I don't know of another public figure like me who comes from the bowels of the MAGA movement. And so I have a different perspective because I come from that family. But I think that family now has been unleashed. I think Christian nationalism has been unleashed. I think white Christian nationalism has been unleashed. Stephen Miller, just tonight before Trump's speech, put out a tweet that basically said, hey, America needs to be a white Christian empire again, loud and proud, baby. I think there is an ugly white Christian fascist ideology that is the most powerful animating force in my former party. And respectfully to David French, I think intellectuals like David kind of poo-poo that. That's what scares me.
I think that's always going to be there. I mean, this weekend, the other atrocity that happened is what we witnessed in Australia, which reminded us of this conflict that despite the fact that it's been going on for literally thousands of years, every time we get even remotely complacent, we're given another reminder that life is fragile, life is precious, and danger lurks everywhere, every day. But I don't think that's a critical mass of people. I don't think Stephen Miller, I don't think even my most, at least the people that I know, and I know some hardcore MAGA, they are cheering everything Trump's doing, even in this term. I know some of those folks, but they don't look at Stephen Miller and say, yeah, I want to be that guy.
No, but when I came out against Trump 7 years ago, 7+, MAGA was a wing of the party.
Yeah.
MAGA now is the party. When you look at the representatives in the House and even increasingly in the Senate and a lot of these state legislators, MAGA is not a wing now. MAGA is the biggest piece. It's the base of the Republican Party. And a big chunk of MAGA is, I want Joe, because they tell me it every day, Joe, love you, but I want America to be a good, decent, white Christian country again. I think this is a bigger force within one of our two major political parties than a lot of never Trumpers want to admit.
Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking through rose-colored glasses here, but
No.
if MAGA is largely defined by Donald Trump, we just spent however many minutes talking about the fact that Donald Trump has no principles, he has no virtues, he has no core soul, no core ethics, right? And you look at what happened now. What we've witnessed with Marjorie Taylor Greene over the last couple months, maybe she's just doing her thing and it's another act in her, public performance art, right? But I do think that there's some truth to what she's been doing and how she's been spurned, as well as several other people that have been hardcore MAGA.
Yeah, but remember, all Marjorie's done is separate herself from Trump for some very personal reasons. 7.5 years ago, I walked away from MAGA, the Republican Party, and Trump. Marjorie is still basically what Marjorie's saying, Corey, is hey, look it over here. I'm the real MAGA. Yeah, hell yeah. I don't want to help Ukraine. Hell yeah. Marjorie, by the way, has real issues with Israel. Let's build a wall around America, make America great again. Marjorie wants to be a leading MAGA voice. Go ahead.
I'm thinking out loud right now, but I think maybe what I'm seeing is the beginnings of an unsustainable movement, specifically because if the movement is led by someone without core principles, even like it's strip away my Christian values, right? But those who proclaim Christian values, at least they're pretending to know what it is. At least they're pretending to aspire to Judeo-Christian values, or what we would consider basic human decency, right? And then if that is the case, I don't believe that everyone who considers themselves part of the MAGA movement are without ethics, without morals. So inevitably, there's going to come a time that it offends their own sense of principle, that's kind of what I'm seeing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, is that she has a line somewhere. And if MAGA ultimately is led and defined by someone without ethics, there's going to come a time where it offends even someone who can only hear the echoes of ethics. So that's why I think this is an unsustainable movement. Maybe this is a reach. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a reach, but I love your Corey. I love your perspective. I just think people like me, free trade, opportunity for all, increase legal immigration kind of Republicans in my time will never see the light of day. But
should we bring back the Whig Party, Joe?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, and I became a Democrat. I wish we had more than 4 parties in this country, but we're not going to get there. By the way, everybody listening to us right now as we close, this guy's name is Corey Nathan. He has a great podcast, of which I've been on a couple times, called Talkin Politics and Religion Without Killing Each Other. You really need to check out his podcast, because as we talk about defeating the threat in front of our eyes right now, fascism, there is a point, and we got to be doing both of the jobs, but we've got to heal the divide in this country or we won't stay together. Corey is obsessed with this project in a good sense. Also, follow my friend Corey here on Substack. Subscribe to his Substack. I know there are a gazillion Substacks out there. A lot of them are all the same. Go places where you get a little interesting, different, thought-provoking perspective. Subscribe to Corey Nathan, you'll get that. Corey, my last question. Completely different. You're a Jew. I'm married to a lovely Jewish bride. I love the state of Israel. I am a Zionist. I'm a proud Zionist. We don't have to get into that right now. You are a Jew and you converted to Christianity. Why'd you do that? What the heck were you doing?
You want the short answer or the long answer?
I'm giving you a 30-second answer.
Okay. All right. Well, it is a long story, but the bottom line is I had a mentor was coaching me along. He wasn't really evangelizing in the classical way of convincing me into the, kingdom of heaven. But the shortest version of the story is I had never read the New Testament. And I got about so the first book I read was James, and it was, to me, it starts with the 12 tribes. I'm like, hey, that's me. And it was dealing with some things that I was grappling with, faith versus works kind of thing, and a couple things. And then I went to the beginning of the collection, Matthew. I'm 5 chapters in, and I get to what I recognize as growing up in an Orthodox synagogue as a Devar Torah, and it was the most brilliant Devar Torah I'd ever heard. It was Jesus. What I didn't know is I was reading the Sermon on the Mount. And it just pulled me in. I didn't put the book down until I got to Revelation 22. And then I believe I had to follow this Rabbi, Yeshua ben Yosef. That's the shortest version I could give you.
You and I'll expand upon that. I only raise that for the folks listening to us to just, again, provide flavor for why I think you're such an interesting voice. You're a Jew. You converted to Christianity. Stop for a moment. Oh man, I'd like to understand that. That's really interesting. We all got to have minds that work that way, my brother.
By the way, Joe, you and Helene are officially invited to the Nathan family Seder. We still do it. It's still, it's not a Jesus Seder. It's a real Seder. You love my dad. He's getting a little older, but you get along really well. So you're officially invited to the Nathan family Seder.
Done. Helene, we're going. Helene.
And the next night we'll go to Katsuya.
Thank you, everybody who's been listening. Corey Nathan is his name. Check out his podcast, Talking Politics and Religion Without Killing Each Other. I love that name. Subscribe to him on Substack. Help him grow his following here because he writes and puts out some really, really interesting stuff. Corey, my brother, thank you. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, Joe. Really love you, man.
Thanks, everybody. Be brave.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow The Social Contract with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been The Social Contract with Joe Walsh.